Hi, good evening. Warm welcome to our Monday night event. My name is Alex, if you don't know me, and I'm a Mitra with Churakna Buddhist community. And Mitra basically means a friend. I'm delighted to co-lead today's evening with Sudhika, one of our experienced practitioners and order members. And we, of course, supported by our talented tech team, Jack and Emma. Nothing would happen without them. So what to expect today? The theme of the evening is worldly wins. If you have been following our events, then you know what they are. If you don't, then I'm sure you'd enjoy Sudhika's talk and explanation what they are. But we are more mainly concerned today with one of worldly wins, that's a loss and gain. Am I right, Sudhika? Yes, loss and gain. And basically, worldly wins are mental events that keep us away from, in a way, do not allow us to experience the reality, the world as it is. But Sudhika will say more about this particular worldly wind. So before I pass on to Sudhika for the evening to introduce the theme and the long meditation, we will have a short meditation, breathing space. The aim of which is just to relax into our bodies, be more present, and to enjoy the talk and the longer meditation. Basically, it's just preparation for the evening. We encourage you to say hello on our chat, and after the meditation, Emma has agreed kindly to read your name so we can say hello to you. So yeah, I think this is all I had to say for now. So if you like to find a comfortable position for our short but hopefully impactful meditation, 3 minutes breathing space. So yes, as I said, please find a comfortable posture. It's good to have a posture which also embodies a sense of being awake. Having your spine upright would also be very useful and helpful for this practice. And if you feel comfortable, please close your eyes. The practice is combined of 3 steps, and I will lead all 3 steps so you don't have to worry remembering anything at all. Three minutes breathing space. We begin step 1 with seeing what is going on with our feelings, thoughts, emotions right now. So gently tapping into our awareness, questioning how I feel today. What are the thoughts going through our minds? What are the emotions? What are the body sensations? What is the weather pattern like today? No need to change anything. We are simply being aware of what is going on. Second step, we bring all our awareness to our breath. narrow down the spotlight of our awareness to the sensations in our abdomen, where we can feel the breath most, or in your heart area, wherever you feel the breath most. Just feeling the breath in our body, especially in our abdomen or in our heart area. Experiencing in-breath to its full duration, experiencing out-breath to its full duration. Just being with the breath. Again, you're not changing anything, just experiencing the breath as it is. In the stage 3, we expand our awareness, expand our breathing experience, awareness to include the entire body, as if you are breathing with your body. See if you can feel that the breath occupies all the area around your body. So you can feel as if you are breathing with your body. Tap into your body. See if you can feel any sensations. Perhaps see if you can feel any sensations on your face, your skin. Be aware of your posture. Be aware of your body. And come back to your body. Come back to now. Well, thank you for joining us for this very short meditation. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was impactful, as promised. Emma, do we have any people saying hello?
Yes, we do. So we've got Tom tuning in from Herne Hill,
Hi,
Joe
Tom.
in Tulse Hill, Anna also from Herne Hill.
Hi, Anna.
Lo from Balham, which is lovely, and also
Hello.
Louise from West College.
Hello everyone, and please continue saying hello if you just joined, and we'll come back to you perhaps after the meditation, after the long meditation. Now I'm going to hand over to Sudhika to introduce the theme of the evening. Thank you, Sudhika.
Thanks very much. Yeah, so welcome to this evening on the worldly winds. So the worldly winds was a teaching that was given by the Buddha, which I suppose is a way of saying how it is that our preoccupations with things going on around us in our day-to-day lives, how those things have a power over our minds, how these things have a power to take the focus of our attention away from our present moment experience. So, as Alex was explaining very well with the arriving meditation, the skill of meditation is just to be able to stay present with our direct sensory experience, and to just focus on that more and more and start to investigate the nature of our present moment experience. But of course, all of us find again and again and again that it can be at times very, very difficult to stay with our present moment experience. You've probably had the experience of sitting there to meditate and your mind just goes off again and again and again. And you keep bringing it back and it keeps going off again and again. And you may have noticed that, when we have thoughts that come up in meditation, well, in a way, there's different types of thoughts that come up. Some thoughts can seem quite light, quite easy to let go of, like you may be sort of sitting there meditating and then, something that you've seen on TV, a couple of days ago pops into your mind and then it sort of pops out again quite quickly. So some thoughts feel very light and very easy to let go of, but other thoughts seem to come with a really strong emotional charge that means that they're much more difficult to let go of. So for example, if we think about a situation where somebody's criticised us at work, in a way we feel that particular thought immediately triggers quite a strong emotional charge in us. And those thoughts which are emotionally charged are much more difficult to let go of. So if we get into thinking about a situation that we've found difficult with a person, or we felt criticised, or maybe it's a thought about something we've seen on the internet that we particularly want to buy, or a thought about a situation where we're worried because we might lose some money or something like that, we'll find that these thoughts, have got a real charge about them. And these are the worldly winds, aren't they? In a way, the emotional charge on these thoughts is the charge of the worldly winds. The worldly winds that the Buddha taught about are pleasure, pain, loss and gain, praise and blame, and fame and infamy. And I guess he talked about them as winds because they blow us away, actually. We're sitting there meditating, we're focusing on our breath. Our breath and our thoughts and our mind are very sort of light, and they're very light and fragile. So when these really powerful thoughts come in, they just blow the focus of our attention away. And I guess the reason why they have this power, this terrific emotional charge for us, is that they tap into our sense of self-identity. In a way, I think all of us are very, very driven by a kind of instinct for self-cherishing and self-preservation. There's a famous Tibetan saying that if you fall from your horse, what do you think about in the moment between falling out of your horse and hitting the ground? Well, we think about ourselves, don't we? Our minds, in any situation of stress, our minds immediately will go to, what about me? What's going to happen to me? And you can see that. This is there for a good reason. It's in a way these are instinctive drives that have been with us throughout the whole of our evolution to kind of protect ourselves. So in a way, there are particular things in our experience which we'll find have the power to trigger that kind of emotional response and to make it very, very difficult for us to, in a way, just stay in the present moment, just be with our experience. So with loss and gain, in a way, that's when our mind is very, very focused on the outside world, and we're either craving after something from the outside world that we want. So with craving, I guess we have a sense of inner lack. We feel lacking in ourselves somehow. Our present moment experience isn't quite enough for us. So our minds kind of go out. We're thinking about, something to eat, something to drink, something that we can buy, perhaps some person that we feel like if we were able to sort of spend an evening with this person, then we'd feel complete in a particular way, or, whatever it might be. But there's always this dynamic of this present moment isn't good enough. We need to kind of go out of ourselves somehow to get something to so that's in a way the dynamic of gain. We're wanting to gain something that we feel at some level is going to kind of make us complete. And the dynamics of loss are kind of almost the mirror image of that. When we're in a state of loss, well, we have a sense of anxiety. We're fearful that we might lose something that, in a way, will mean that we'll have this feeling of incompleteness. So we've got something, we rely on this something for our sense of completeness and well-being, but there's a sense of anxiety that we might lose it. we might lose it in the future. And if you notice, I think for ourselves and really for everyone, issues around money can have a particular charge. I mean, I work in a job where we're often giving people grants for things. So I just notice how people are around, saying, well, if you say to somebody, yes, we're going to give you a grant for this work, they feel fantastic. Or if you can't give them the grant, they feel very disappointed. And really, I think if we think about our own experience, if say, for example, we get a big bill that we weren't expecting, and that's going to cause us financial problems, that can trigger off a terrific sense of anxiety. Or, if somebody gives us some money that we weren't expecting, we can have this tremendous sense of sort of well-being that comes with it. And in a way, the emotionality, the emotional response is kind of out of proportion to the money. I've just been reading a book that called It's Not About the Money. And the point that the book is making is that, in a way, money is never just money. Money always kind of represents or carries the energy of something else, something bigger or something deeper. Yeah, so perhaps if we lose some money unexpectedly or we get a big bill that we weren't expecting, it can trigger off almost like survival instincts. We start sort of feeling like our survival is under threat, even if it isn't actually. So these are the kind of dynamics that we get with loss and gain, with the worldly winds in general. It's like a very, very strong emotional charge to a thought or a situation, which is kind of out of proportion to the situation itself. And it comes about because that situation is triggering something quite deep around our sort of sense of identity. But, when we're meditating, the key thing about these worldly winds, they're very painful and difficult to experience in our day-to-day lives. But in meditation, I suppose, we have a chance to really work with these. We have a chance to really see how these worldly winds affect us, and also how we can work with those worldly winds to stop them having such a strong power over us. Through meditation, I think we're trying to develop our ability to be free of the worldly winds, free of the kind of tyranny of external events. So with loss and gain, our thoughts keep getting drawn back into the outside world. We're thinking about something we want. We're worrying about losing something that we have. We're caught up in a kind of emotional state of craving or fear or aversion. And this just makes it very difficult and makes it impossible for us just to stay with our present moment experience. And I think when it gets out of control, it can really be like being trapped in a bad dream, where we're caught in this situation and we find it very difficult to get out of. I guess many of us have probably had the experience of lying in bed at night, sort of worrying about something, just wanting to go to sleep, but the thoughts just keep coming up, and we're going over the same thought process again and again, and we're not getting anywhere. So how do we work with these? How do we work with these worldly winds? How do we stop these winds blowing us completely off course? So I've just got a few suggestions how we can work with these worldly winds in our meditation practice. So the first one is almost like, the basic instruction of meditation, isn't it? Which is to learn to let go of our thoughts and bring the focus of our attention back to the present moment. And this is something that we can train in, and in a way, just doing a regular practice of the mindfulness of breathing or another mindfulness practice. It's just a real key practice in this. We're learning, if you like, the difference between our direct experience and our thoughts about experience. And it can be very helpful sometimes, and this is something that sometimes gets recommended by meditation teachers. We can just gently label thoughts as thoughts. So, if we find ourselves meditating, we find ourselves, we've gone off into some mental thing about, say it's a thought about something that we want to buy on the internet, and we think, oh, those shoes are so lovely. oh no, come on, I've got to meditate. And then, oh no, those shoes, maybe tomorrow I'll go and get those shoes, because if I've got those shoes, I'll look so good. And, people are thinking, one of my friends has got those shoes and they look so great. So our mind keeps going off into that. So we can just say, thinking, that's just thinking. I come back to the present moment. Those are just thoughts in a way. And we can learn to try and develop a sense of the kind of satisfaction and pleasure that comes from being in contact with our direct experience. And we can notice that pleasure and satisfaction, in a way, it's what we want when we're thinking about the shoes. And we think that the shoes are going to give us it. But actually, that pleasure and satisfaction that we're looking for from the shoes is actually there in our present moment experience. It's actually there. The breath in the present moment gives us the satisfaction that, we're wanting from the shoes, if you see what I mean. So that's that learning to let go of thoughts, learning the difference between thinking and direct experience, and training ourselves to take pleasure in that direct experience. I mean, one of the antidotes to craving, which is kind of almost paradoxical, but one of the antidotes to craving is pleasure. Because when we're taking pleasure in what's going on in our present moment experience, we're much less likely for our minds to go off, looking for it somewhere else. So if we find ourselves in craving, just look for pleasure in our present moment sense experience, and then just stay with that. Then I guess the second thing we can do to work against these worldly winds is to work in meditation with our own emotions of craving and aversion. So kind of learning to recognize what are the telltale signs that we're getting into a state of craving and aversion. And the way we can tell that is that those emotions, or the kind of emotional tone of those states, shows up as a tightness in our bodies. So if we start getting into craving, we'll start to notice that somewhere in our body we start to get tight. And there's a sense of our sort of mental state starting to kind of close down or become narrower. And when we notice that happening, we can just breathe into that area of tightness and encourage a sense of releasing, relaxing, expanding. And it's the same with aversion. I mean, it's almost aversion is almost more obvious. But when we're in a state of aversion, the whole of our body starts to sort of clamp, around our throats and our jaws, and always kind of, that's this terrible thing that's going to happen. Like this. So again, we can just encourage a sense of, just recognizing that, recognizing, okay, this is aversion. I'm getting into a state of not wanting something. And just notice that and just breathe into those physical symptoms, if you like, and just practice releasing and letting go. So this is a real sort of fundamental way of working in meditation. We notice when we're tightening, we notice when we're closing down, and then we just bring a gentle awareness into that whole process and, in a way, give that attention the quality of metta, the quality of kindness and acceptance. And in that way we kind of open up those sort of more frozen, more stuck kind of emotional states. So there's learning to let go of thoughts and come back to direct experience. There's learning how to work with the negative mental states of craving and aversion. And then thirdly, I think, it's just around cultivating a sense of contentment and equanimity. So, as I said before, just looking for a sense of pleasure and satisfaction in our present moment experience. And cultivating an attitude that whatever's present in our experience is okay, and that we already have everything we need in our present moment experience. So one of the ways that craving and aversion works is that we have a habit of thinking that happiness is in the future, and that we need to do something or go somewhere or reach out or push something away in order to get this happiness, which we imagine as something which is external to us and that we need to kind of somehow appropriate to make ourselves complete. Whereas if we can turn that whole model around, we can see that, well, happiness isn't in the future. I mean, happiness is always in the present. Whenever we're happy, it's always present. So if we want to find happiness, we have to find it in our present moment experience. It's no good, putting it off until the future. So we look for pleasure and enjoyment in the simple movement of the breath, or the simple sensations of the body, or we can open our eyes and find something beautiful in our experience, and just focus on that sense of we've got what we need, we've got everything that we need. So those are my 3 tips for working with the worldly winds. So let go of thinking, learn to work with the negative mental states of craving and aversion, and then cultivate a sense of contentment and equanimity, a sense that we're sort of complete already in the present moment. So that's what I wanted to say about those. So we'll do a period of mindfulness of breathing, and we'll just do the first 2 stages in the usual way. So in the first stage, counting at the end of the out-breath, and in the second stage, counting at the beginning of the in-breath. And then in the third stage, I'll just give us a few pointers to point us in the direction of looking for pleasure and completion in our present moment experience. So if you'd like to find a comfortable position for meditation, really take a few moments to settle into your body. So feel your sitting bones and your knees and shins and ankles and feet in contact with the ground. Letting the ground support and hold your weight. So you can just let go into that support. And as you feel that contact with the ground, also tune into a sense of stability, solidity. A bit like being a tree with a very broad base and very deep roots that anchor your experience in the ground of the present moment. And you can feel your spine rising up from your pelvis and drawing your shoulders slightly back, feeling the crown of your head drawing up towards the ceiling. A sense of freedom and openness in the front of the body, so the breath can flow freely. The energy can flow freely through your body. And feeling the flow of your breath, the in-breath, and the short pause, and then the out-breath. And in the first stage, we focus more on the out-breath. So just feel the breath flowing out on the out-breath. A sense of letting go, releasing. And at the end of that out-breath, we count silently to ourselves. Counting 1. Breathing out, And so we begin mindfulness of breathing. Now in the second stage, paying more attention to the in-breath. Just noticing the in-breath, the energy, the revitalizing effect of the in-breath. And counting before each in-breath. Let the counting go and just stay with the movement of your breathing in your body. Looking for a sense of pleasure, enjoyment in the simple sense experience of your body and your breath. Notice when your mind goes off into thoughts. Just notice that when our mind goes into thoughts, we lose contact with that, with the pleasure of that direct, felt experience in the present moment. So when we notice we're in thoughts, coming back to the next in-breath, letting that breath take us back into the alive enjoyment of our direct experience. And if you notice a sense of pleasure in your direct experience, just keep feeding that with your breath and your awareness. What we give our attention to, we get more of. We give attention to the pleasure of being in our present moment experience. That pleasure becomes stronger and stronger. In the fourth stage, we just try to make that a little bit more subtle and refined. Just try and pay a little bit more of a fine-grained attention to the point where you first feel the touch of the breathing. Again, looking for this really refined sense of pleasure and enjoyment in the touch of the breath. See if you can relax a little bit more. Allow the focus of your attention to become more and more absorbed in that simple, single sensation of the breath, just moving at the tip of your nose. Cultivating a sense that everything we need, we have right now in this present moment. And now just stay with that, stay present. In a moment I'll ring the bell to bring the practice to an end. But before we end it, we can just reflect for a moment. If we feel in touch now with a sense of a calm, still inner place, and if we feel in touch right now with a sense of contentment and well-being, we can know that this is something we can come back to again and again, something we can keep returning to perhaps when things are difficult or turbulent in the world around us. We can train ourselves to keep coming back, you could say, to this inner refuge, this inner place of safety and stability. So when we're ready, we'll bring this period of meditation to an end. Hopefully that gave you a sense of being able to connect into a sense of sort of pleasure in the present moment. And I'd really sort of give you this tip that, the antidote to craving is actually pleasure. If we find ourselves craving for something outside of ourselves to complete ourselves, we can look for that sense of completion already there in our experience.
Thank you, Sudhika. Thank you very much. From me, from everyone in this room, and from all our viewers online, I find your both the talk and the meditation very transformative. Also, even some penetrating your talk and the meditation was very kind of calming, and actually, regardless of my really tough day, I managed to have some enjoyment in my meditation. Thank you. I wasn't expecting that. If you have any questions, please do ask. We will Sudhika and I'll try to answer your questions. Do you have any questions?
Don't have any yet. Tom from Manila said excellent, thank you, very clear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
And Steph from Crystal Palace is also saying thank you so much. And she also says thanks for the great intro.
Thank you.
And Sharon Pan also saying hello.
Thank you for your hellos. Any questions from you guys?
So I think it'd be so nice to have everybody back in the same place, isn't it? I think we're all looking forward to that, to meditate in person. It's not quite the same teaching into a camera, you can't really see people the same way. So.
And people can directly thank you rather than thank you via Emma.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, usually when you're teaching, you kind of have this sense of whether what you're saying is landing, because you can kind of see the people in front of you. And if people are sort of looking around, looking really kind of bored, you think, oh dear, it's not going very well. If people are sort of nodding and kind of like this, so you get a lot of sort of signals back. But of course, teaching online, you don't quite get the same feeling of sort of feedback. So it's nice here because we've got two lovely tech people.
Sudhika, I have a question. It's kind of around the kind of pleasure in our meditation. I was wondering kind of what you would say if kind of like we are meditating and there is a lack of kind of pleasure in our meditation, because that could be sometimes discouraging, especially for those who are just new into meditation. I wonder if you have any tip how to kind of like in my experience, there should be some kind of like there's almost like a barrier. You just go over it, and then you start feeling some kind of pleasure.
Yeah.
But before you get to that point, I know that some people get kind of a bit disappointed or and just leave meditation. Any tips you have would be very useful, interesting to hear.
Yeah. Well, a couple of things come to mind. I think very often the way to get into meditation is to try and relax a bit more. I think very often the initial barrier to getting more into meditation, more absorbed in meditation, is the fact that we're just too tense. So there's learning how to let go of tension and holding in the body. And as we become more relaxed, then there's a kind of inner space that sense of pleasure and enjoyment can sort of come into. So that's one thing. And then I think another thing is that, and this is certainly my experience, very often when we start to turn inwards and we start to develop a kind of mindful awareness of what's going on inside us, the first thing that we encounter is a background level of discomfort, dis-ease. It's almost like, I sometimes say it's a bit like there's a kind of white noise, static going on just behind our experience the whole time. I think particularly if we're very busy, or if we live in a city where we're surrounded by people who are kind of stressed all the time, we can almost pick up a kind of low level of stress, which becomes then kind of almost part of the background of our experience, a kind of low level of dukkha. To use the Buddhist language, dukkha, dis-ease, you could say. And until we kind of learn the training of meditation, what we do is we experience that sense of low-level dis-ease or discomfort, and then we immediately sort of bounce off it and go back into externally orientated activity, if you see what I mean. So, and the classic thing is we come into a room, we feel a bit restless, so we turn on the TV or switch on some music or light a cigarette or get something to eat out of the fridge. We'll do something just to get rid of that, you could say, that existential unease that we're feeling. Yeah. So I think a lot of the training of the meditation is being able to sort of pass through that. So, you know, we take our focus of attention inwards, and then there's this slight sort of, you know, as we come into contact with our experience. But then if we can just relax and stay with that low-level background discomfort, then we find that it'll sort of ease and transform, and then we'll be able to sort of pass through it into the kind of deeper levels of our experience. But I think that does take a little bit of sort of training and practice to be able to do it, because our instinctive senses, if something's uncomfortable, is to just move away from it immediately. And in a way, that's our kind of modern condition, isn't it? Everybody's doing that. Everybody feels this kind of background sense of discomfort. So they have this kind of restless activity, which is designed to sort of take us out of that discomfort. And I guess, you know, the kind of intensity of that tendency towards distraction just gets stronger and stronger. You know, all the kind of new communications technologies and so on mean that I think a whole generation of people are growing up now that don't really have much experience of being in touch with their inner experience, you know, particularly their uncomfortable inner experience, because, you know, the moment you feel it, you go on the phone and you start looking for some form of distraction. So I think it's a real kind of gift and a real sort of gateway into a depth of experience to be able to learn how to stay with that and kind of move through it. Because once we do that, then of course, you know, we come into contact with, you know, something very, very kind of rich about our inner experience and these inner resources which can really sort of sustain us. So, yeah, I feel that, you know, in a way everybody should learn meditation. It's a wonderful thing because it gives us back access to, you know, our inner world and all the riches that are there in our inner world.
Thank you very much, Sujiga. That's very, very helpful. Very helpful. I also wanted to say thank you for all of you who have been supporting financially our events. Yes, a massive thank you for all of us. Without your support, without help, none of this would be possible. We are kind of volunteers. Myself and Sudika don't get paid, but all this space, the space and flowers.
No gain on it at all.
No gain. No gain. The flowers and candles, everything, as you would imagine, kind of cost us. And just wanted to say thank you for your donations and for allowing this to happen by your kind donations. So in a way, kind of this was the first part of the evening, and then there's a second part of the evening which will start literally in 10-15 minutes. Is that correct, Emma? 15, right?
Start straight away.
Oh, straight away. Oh, sorry. My apologies. So it starts straight away. So what you have to do is only to click on a link which is somewhere there. Emma has kindly, I'm sure, provided you with that link, and you will enter into our discussion lounge, where Pam, our lovely Pam, would facilitate that discussion. This is just an opportunity for you to discuss anything that came up from this wonderful talk delivered by Sudika. And even kind of not a talk, perhaps if you had any meditative experiences that you'd like to discuss in a group, yes, that group would exactly the place for you to have all these interesting discussions. So that's all from us. Thank you very much. Thank you from our wonderful tech team, very smiley tech team, and from Sudikan, and we see you hopefully next week. Bye.